down into a particular area that may be helpful for us to address. And that has to do with the impact of technology on our searching of the Scriptures. We are grateful for technology, things like, big giant machines to move earth and planes to fly to St. Louis, or cars driving to drive to church, and all sorts of other things. We're grateful for them. But one of the things that often goes overlooked is when we think about modern technology, people focus on the message. So there's bad information, heresy, unbelief, pornography, all these things that are found in the content of modern technology. But few think about the medium itself, the medium that is employed itself. And I think we should at least be alert to the impact of technology upon our study of the Scriptures and so on, because every technology has strengths and weaknesses. The telephone is phenomenal. It's a fantastic piece of technology. The telephone helps us. So someone is in a horrific accident, we can pick up the phone and we can call very quickly, right? There's an efficiency, a speed. Call the ambulance to come and help. Or your family moves to the other end of the earth, you can actually hear their voice once in a while without having to travel. It's wonderful. But every technology has its own strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, in the old days, they would write letters, and they would have to think about what they're going to say, and they'd have to, say things the way they want to say it. They would organize it, maybe even write a draft letter at times, and put things together, and it would affect what they would not say, as well as what they would say. And that's very different from the telephone. You pick up the telephone and it's kind of verbal drooling. No one prepares for a telephone call. You just talk. You just drool on the phone, verbally. And we meander all over the place, and that's perfectly fine. We're not saying it's wrong. We're just saying that's very different than, for example, composing a letter. Every piece of technology has strengths and weaknesses. And that's true, which is where I'm going, with the internet as well, iPads and iPhones and all of these things. They're a blessing. They've been useful in the dissemination of Reformed material and being able to send documents back and forth and being able to contact one another and so on. But there are weaknesses. One obvious weakness is the consumption of time. The idea was technology is efficient, it'll save time. When I was a kid, they used to complain about how much time people spend on TV. That has been grossly dwarfed by the number of minutes and hours spent on an electronic device in our own day. It's peanuts compared to what we have today. There is at times the consumption of time being a problem, but that's not the thing I want to speak about. There's something worse, and that is, I think, the dumbing down of Americans, for example. Because what happens is the habit of using the internet, for example, many hours a day, is a person begins to lose the ability for sustained concentration, right? You scan things rather than reading them carefully, and you bounce from one thing to the next and the next and the next and the next rapidly, clicking hyperlinks and going here and there and so on, all over the place. And a person's attention span is lowered, and it's ubiquitous because it's everywhere. But the problem is it begins to affect how we think. Our brains then become trained according to those ruts, if you will. And the fact is, and this isn't me, there's a humongous body of literature that's being produced on why people can't read and write as a result. I had an English professor come to me, unsolicited. He didn't even, there was no connection at all on this topic, and he said, he was just an admission. He is an English professor who deals for a living with books and literature. And he said, I have gotten to the place I cannot sit down and read a book for 30 minutes straight with concentrated attention to it, being able to digest it. Well, that story can be told a million times over. The concern is that we would actually retreat back into the Dark Ages. And so there are strengths and weaknesses. We need to be able to look at technology and say, let's benefit from all of its strengths, but then let's be self-conscious about its weaknesses. Do you control it, or does it control you? There may be a point in which we need to say, I need to limit myself significantly so that I am spending time reading slowly, carefully, reflectively, interactively, in a concentrated fashion, the Scriptures, as well as things that are related to the Scriptures. And to prioritize, saying, I can't allow my life to be hijacked to where I am not a Christian capable of being able to think and to reflect in any sort of deliberate way. Carving out time to sit and read and think. This is part of searching the Scriptures.